More than 6,000 flights have been canceled. Several thousand are delayed. The official reason is that Omicron is surging, the COVID Omicron variant, and thus there's a staffing shortage. We're also hearing some reports that weather may be impacting travel. And, I just drove back from Chicago. I was talking to some people who were complaining about being stranded, basically stranded. And they said that they checked the weather and there was no bad weather. That the weather was fine, and it's kind of strange. Yeah, we heard the same thing before. I don't think they're being completely honest about why they're canceling all of these flights. I think Omicron probably is a big reason, but I think there's probably other reasons. I wonder if the vaccine mandates has resulted in more labor shortages or the fact that people are just quitting. But many of us travel. You travel, I travel. I travel a whole lot. I used to travel a whole lot more. And I can tell you this. When there's a weather delay or cancellation, you can see the weather. I mean, you look out the window and it's storming. And it's like, we're getting delayed. I was in Dallas once. It was thunderstorming and they had the lightning lights on. So I used to work for at O'Hare. I worked for an American Airlines regional airline, and it's called the American Eagle. And they have these things there where when the light turns on, it means there's lightning in the area and everyone's got to get off the tarmac. That means planes are locked down. Everyone's getting delayed. Because you can't have people out there when there's lightning. But you can see the weather, or if it's just your flight getting delayed, you can check the destination city or in between and see if weather is going to be impacting your flight. And planes typically fly above the storms. So, I mean, you've flown, you fly, it's raining, it's thunderstorming, and then all of a sudden, no, you're above the clouds and it's sunny. But I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be a pilot or know exactly why the inclement weather when it's all sunny is the reason. They're saying it's what happens is it'll be raining in California or something, and the plane has to go from like New York to Chicago to California. And if it gets to Chicago, it'll be stuck, so they can't go. And basically what they're saying is if there's bad weather somewhere down the line, it screws up the whole system. If that were the case, we wouldn't be talking about it because it would be a normal thing. But it's not a normal thing. Something is going on. I think if you look out the windows, you can tell something's going on. And maybe the simple answer is, yeah, Omicron is surging. But here's where it gets crazy. They're saying right now that Omicron is surging through the roof, but they're also saying that it's substantially less deadly, just more infectious. We're locking down industry over COVID because people are scared of it. But if it really does come to the point where it's endemic and becomes substantially more mild, we're going to destroy our economy. To put it like this, I don't want someone working on an airline, like a flight attendant, if they got COVID. I mean, that's messed up, right? Because you don't want people getting COVID. But what happens when people are relatively asymptomatic, they're sick, and they don't work? I suppose the challenge is that COVID is novel and that people are getting it a lot. I don't want people to work when they're sick. But I just got to point this out. People get sick all the time. People call in sick all the time. So if we had the flu and we had colds and we had, rhinoviruses and coronaviruses, how come we haven't experienced shutdowns like this before? Certainly there'd be a period where it would be like, wow, a whole ton of our staff, they got a cold and now they can't come into work because we don't want people, being on the plane with the cold and getting everybody sick. That never happened. It could be that we had a culture of people saying, I'm sick, I don't care, I'll go to work anyway. Or they get a mild illness, they don't know they're sick. Now, because we're doing mass testing, this could be the reason why. Somebody gets a cold, they don't realize it, or they think they're fine. They spread that cold around. It kind of sucks. I mean, it literally sucks. I don't want to get sick. Getting sick sucks. Now that we're doing testing for everybody and everyone's getting tested for the holiday, we've created this security culture around illnesses. And we're like, everyone get tested for COVID. We find out they have COVID, even if they're not sick. And then we shut down airlines. And then you don't get to fly. This is the future. This is what we're going to be experiencing. Let me show you what's going on, too. Because now Fauci is saying domestic air travel should have a vaccine mandate. CNN reports more than 2,000 flights have been canceled Monday as COVID cases surge across the globe. Of the nearly 2,200 canceled flights, more than 700 were within, into, or out of the United States. According to FlightAware, more than 3,000 flights are delayed. Globally, airlines canceled more than 6,000 flights on Christmas Eve, Christmas, and the day after Christmas in the U.S. More than 1,200 flights were canceled, and more than 5,000 were delayed on Sunday alone as staff and crew called out sick. Called out sick, huh? There was a rumor going around that Southwest, this is a couple of months ago, had a work stoppage, that there was a protest because of the vaccine mandates. I talked to a pilot. And he was like, no, it's organic. There's no organized effort. It's people just being like, I'm going to use up all of my sick time and leave because I ain't doing this. It's entirely possible. It's the holiday. A lot of people are just like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to deal with this. They say the cancellations come at the busiest time of year for air travel. The U.S. Transportation Security Administration said it screened millions of people each day over the holiday weekend, peaking at 2.19 million travelers on Thursday, December 23rd. On Wednesday, more people passed through TSA checkpoints than on the same day in 2019. I'll put it this way. Omicron may be surging. You don't want to get COVID, man. I'll tell you that. But for regular people, I think they're fed up with the restrictions and all of this. I think they're ready to just carry on with their normal lives. Saturday, air travel was a bit slower because of flight cancellations. More than 1.53 million people passed through security. United Airlines said last week it had to cancel hundreds of flights because it lacked enough crew members to safely fly all of its scheduled routes. Take those routes out. Stop them. Stop selling tickets. The nationwide spike in Omicron cases this week has had a direct impact on our flight crews and the people who run our operation, said a United memo obtained by CNN. Delta said it was working to get all stranded travelers home as quickly as possible. We apologize to our customers for the delay in their holiday travel plans, Delta said in a statement. Delta people are working hard to get them where they need to be as quickly and as safely as possible on the next available flight. German airline Lufthansa said it will cancel 10% of its winter flight schedule as the pandemic continues to hit the aviation industry. In an interview with Frankfurter Allgemeine, is that how you say it? I can't pronounce it. All right, let's try. Sonntagszeitung, whatever. Last week, CEO Carsten Spohr said that due to a sharp drop in bookings, the airline would have to cancel 33,000 flights from mid-January to February 2022, or 10% of their schedule. Well, I'll tell you this. I went to Chicago. We drove. It wasn't that far. You know, they say that if the distance you're traveling is at least a 5-hour drive, don't fly, because you'd end up spending more time in the airport and flying, and you might as well drive. Yeah, sort of. It is true, but also it's like, look, hopping in a cab for 30 minutes to get to the airport, going through security, and then just sitting back and letting the plane bring you there, and then hopping in a cab. If you don't have the energy to be the person driving the car because maybe you got to work, when you land or something, or you want to deal with family, I understand flying for sure. But we drove 10 hours from here to Chicago, and probably a smart thing to do. If we had flown, we would have been screwed. And I'll tell you this, if you like flying, it's going to get more difficult. The Hill reports Fauci on domestic air travel mandate. Anything to get people more vaccinated would be welcome. Fauci, you're a bad person. There was someone on Twitter who was tweeting that, vaccines are not tyranny, it's science, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, okay. This is a lefty person. You need to understand this, lefty persons. I don't care about vaccines. Like, what, if you want to get vaccinated, you go ahead and do it. If you want to encourage people to get vaccinated, absolutely, please do so. If you go to a doctor and your doctor's like, I recommend a vaccine, I'd be like, okay, fantastic. Thanks, doc. Because I view it the same way as anything else the doctor is going to prescribe me. Now, I'll tell you this. If you think you can mandate a medical procedure on someone else, that's tyranny. See, that's what this individual on Twitter didn't understand. They were saying, like, it's part of the social contract that we all must blah, 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 blah. The social, are you, a Nazi? We don't live for the state, okay? Okay, Godwin's law. I'll take that criticism. Are you a statist authoritarian? The state does not have the right to change the social contract on a whim. No, it's called a democratic process. This is why we have the legislature. It's why we have courts. If an executive wants to just, be it corporate or government, wants to just change things, they can't do it. So to have all of these despotic individuals in government come out and be like, I hereby decree. You don't get to hereby decree. It has to go through the legislature and the courts, but they're doing it anyway. Why? Because they know that by the time they get sued, it'll take months to get any changes done. This we cannot stand. We cannot have people like Bill de Blasio be like, I will take from you your paycheck and your quality of life unless you inject yourself with what I see fit. Screw you. You don't get to do that. No, you put it up for a vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Our votes sometimes, they take too long. Here's what they're doing. People like Fauci, people like Cuomo, well, Cuomo's not governor anymore. People like de Blasio, they think if they enact a decree, People will drop to their knees and cry and weep like pathetic, spineless cowards until someone brave enough challenges them in court and wins. But that means they'll get a good 3 months of flogging the public with their mandates. And it works. They say it works. Yeah, so does beating people. So does having, look, this is what I tell you, man. This is what I say. During Occupy Wall Street, you get these protesters and they're like standing in the street and they're like holding signs saying like, we object. And so the police in New York are like, I got an idea. Let's beat them and then arrest them. And then they won't be in the street anymore. And so the police do. They go in, they grab people, they're whacking them and stuff like that. I'm not trying to act like the activists are all, angels or anything like that. But there was that video where Anthony Bologna, the cop, walks up to, I think it was 3 random women who were just standing on the sidewalk and he just pepper sprays them in the face because they were like, okay. Well, what ends up happening is you get a viral video, and after you arrest people, arresting works. They're not in the street anymore. It works. Then what happens? And the next day you have 10 times as many people in the street because now you've pissed off more people. Saying mandates work. Sure, in the short term, you're forcing people to get, vaccinated. But I tell you this, man, people are getting pissed off. When I was in Chicago, and this is really, really funny because people don't believe it happened, but it did. We went to a restaurant. I went to a restaurant with my girlfriend, and we had a delicious meal. It was incredible. It's crazy Christmas deal. I'm telling you, man, that volcanic ash steakhouse, whatever. It's crazy. And so we were going to go see Kingsman after. So we were getting a dinner and a movie, is a Christmas Eve. It's the day before Christmas Eve, I think. Anyway, we're leaving, and we asked the people at the front desk, of the restaurant, or the host, can you guys order a car for us? And one of the guys just goes, where do you got to go? And we're like, we're going to the AMC Dine-In. I think it was on like Michigan or something. And he's like, I'll give you a ride. And so we said, that'd be amazing. And he's like, come on, we got to go. Cause we had like 15 minutes till the movie started. Cause we were enjoying it. And so we get in the car and we're driving through downtown Chicago. On January 3rd, Chicago is going to be enforcing a vaccine mandate for basically all indoor public accommodations. Like grocery stores are exempt and stuff like that. And so we're driving, and, he asks us where we're from, and we say, like, oh, we're from here, but we live in West Virginia and stuff like that. And then he asks us about West Virginia. The guy was from Bulgaria. He was saying he was thinking about going back to Bulgaria because of how bad things are getting. And but he asks us about Virginia, and we were like, Virginia is the racist one, and West Virginia was the not racist one. Because that's what he asked. He was like, which one's the racist one? And we were like, okay, well, in the Civil War, it was Virginia's one state, and then West Virginia broke off, and they said that, they joined the North. And so we were somewhat facetious. And he said, amen, slavery's coming back to this country. And I said, are you talking about mandates? And he goes, yes. And I was like, yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, maybe a little hyperbolic for sure, but you get the point he's making. Overt authoritarianism is here. Now, this guy, he's not American. He was Bulgarian. And he said that to us. And then people responded to my tweet with like, everybody clapped. That actually happened, everywhere we went, when we would ask people about this stuff, they'd be like, this is insane. Even the people who hated Trump, even the people who voted for Joe Biden, they'd be like, this is nuts. I had friends being like, I don't know if I'm going to stay in Chicago. And now you have this thing, maybe I'll cover it in greater detail because there's a chart showing population changes. And it's like all of these red states, like hold on, let me do this. I'm going to ask you a question, and I know you know the answer. 2 questions. Which state do you think had the largest population drop, and which state do you think had the largest population increase? It's obvious, isn't it? The largest population drop off, California. The largest population increase, Florida. I wonder why that is. No, I don't actually wonder. It's fairly obvious. In Florida, life's normal. You can go down there, you can get property. In fact, the weather is, depending on what kind of person you are, it's relatively nice. You get your monsoon season. It's extremely hot in some parts of Florida. But, Florida's pretty good. I lived there for just over a year. I enjoyed it. Miami is very hot but you get the winter months and it's all right. But people are moving there because there's no mandates, because you're free, because you can go to a restaurant and order food and not have to wear a mask. I mean, just think about how stupid this is. We're in downtown Chicago and we went to go get a drink and we walk into this place, it's like, you must wear a mask. And so I'm like, okay, all right. I walk in, I put the mask on, I walk literally 20 feet and I take the mask off. And I said, that was the stupidest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And you've all experienced the same thing. It makes no sense. Now, I have stated, I must confess, that if given the, I will not patronize an establishment that requires masks. Now, that being said, there are some limitations and reasonableness, which I will confess. Within certain reason, I'm willing to be like, look, okay, it's Christmas. This may be the last chance we have in Chicago. There's a mask mandate citywide. Fine. Do it for family. But I have my limitations. I absolutely do. And I don't want to get too personal about those limitations, but they were met for this Christmas excursion. There were places I would not set foot in due to mask requirements. Nope, won't do it. Sorry, I have my limit. If it's like I go like this and then I sit down and take it off, I just call those people stupid. And it is a problem. But also, I will say this may be the last time I ever set foot in Chicago because of the vaccine mandates that are coming up. I'm not going to go to a city that has this kind of any kind of forced medical procedure. Sorry, it's never been this way in this country. It shouldn't be this way now. You get these people on the left saying, but vaccine mandates have been in this country forever, like in schools and the military. It's like, yo, you choose to go to those things. You choose them. Now Fauci wants vaccines for domestic air travel. Oh, but you choose that too. Sure. But for some people, this is much more of you're getting into insanity territory. You're getting into infringement territory. Now, if you choose to join the military, all right, you're signing away you're signing yourself up for 4 years. You've got requirements. One of those is to get vaccinated. However, they must be FDA approved. So we'll see what happens with the military because right now the vaccines are emergency use authorization. In Europe, I believe they are giving out the Pfizer community vaccine. I don't think they're doing it in the U.S., but I gotta read it more on where we're at with that stuff. But when you go to school, you go to a university and you're like, I would like to go here. They say, well, if you do, you have to get the vaccine. Sure, I think I disagree with that, but it's also a private institution. So there's a boundary. It's hard to know for sure. Now, if you have a medical exemption or religious exemption, they should not be allowed to force that. Of course, these institutions are doing away with religious exemptions. And in the military, the various branches, they're denying religious exemptions, which is wrong because we have a right to practice our religion. Now, in a place like Chicago, when the government decrees it and the businesses don't like it, but the businesses go along with it, I'm not going to be setting foot in that city again. So it was a bit of a compromise. And I'll admit, you can criticize me for it all day and night. Absolutely. I've told many people not to comply and not to go along with the stuff. And I've said over and over again, I will not patronize a business that has a mask mandate. Out here, there was a local business. West Virginia's got none of this stuff. There was a coffee house and a bagel shop, and they have a big sign saying, please wear your mask. And so I walked up to the door, looked inside and said, Starbucks is right across the street and they have no mandates. And I can walk right in with no mask and they got smiles on their faces, will serve me coffee without question. Done. I don't care what you do. You do you. I do me. If you say I have to do something to go into your establishment, I say no, thank you. I will not say the same thing of you. So that's libertarian versus authoritarian. These are the people like Fauci who say everyone should just follow and march in lockstep and adhere to the authority. Look, whatever your opinion is on forcing people to do things, this is a death sentence for a culture. When you get to the point where you restrict any possible variance in a culture, you homogenize, and that is dangerous. Diversity, variety, these things are actually important to the strength of a society. And what I mean by that is not the diversity, equity, BS. No, I mean like legitimate diversity of opinion and viewpoint. Now, I'll tell you, I went to Chicago for family, and that's how they get you, as I often say. It was a compromise that I'm relatively unhappy with. I actually, to be completely honest, I didn't know that Chicago had mask mandates because when we booked the hotels, there was no instruction on any of this stuff. And I was actually told by people there was no mask mandate. But yeah, I am, I'm not happy with it. Now, when it came to early on with the masks, my attitude was much more lax. It was more like, if I have to go into a business and I have to wear a mask, it's no big deal. It's a piece of cloth. I don't care. You got to wear a shirt too, right? Someone asked me on Timcast IRL, they said, knowing that this all started with mask mandates, do you still feel, that you were right when you said it was fine, it was no big deal? Well, look, I'll put it this way. As I've often stated, no shirt, no shoes, no service. If a business wants me to wear a mask, whatever. It's a piece of cloth on my face for a few minutes and I take it off. And I will choose to go to a business that doesn't have that over one that does. If I have no choice, I'll wear it. It's not a permanent and irreversible medical procedure. That's where the line is. A business saying we require you to wear a hat or to wear shoes, well, then sure, fine. The problem arises when the state mandates it. Okay, now we've got a problem. The state should not be enforcing what you wear. I mean, imagine if they're like, they're telling us to wear face coverings by state mandate. That's the problem I have. Man, it's tough, isn't it? I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect. By all means, criticize me and comment below. But when it comes to mandated irreversible medical procedures on emergency use authorization substances where there is no liability for the manufacturers, I'm not going anywhere near that, dude. That's you. You do your thing. I'll do mine. What does this mean for the future? I'll tell you this. I think air travel is going to get a lot more difficult. I think in the future, we're all going to be in Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse with our Elon Musk Neuralink chip plugging us in. And then people are going to be like, dude, I went to France. And they'll be like, no, you actually went to France? Wow. How was it? It was really cool getting to see all the pod towers. And then, the restaurants were it was great because I got my Soylent Green. But seeing their pod towers, they're actually like a slight grayish because they have a different material there for building pod towers. And, and the bugs were delicious. That's what the future is going to be like, huh? Okay, maybe not. But, we'll see. This stuff keeps encroaching. They keep escalating the mandates. And that's why I say you've got to just don't go to a business that says wear a mask. And that means for Chicago, I'll put it this way. It's probably the last time I'll ever be there. I'm from there, and I was like, I should go. It's a family thing. Enjoy what I can while all of this basically goes under. There were mask mandates. All right. So I wore a mask every so often, took it off. We even in some points were just like covering our mouths and just being like, is that sufficient? But it's just absolutely ridiculous. When you walk into a restaurant, you have to wear a mask for 10 seconds, then take your mask off. It's meaningless, completely meaningless. And I'll tell you this, half the places we went to, we didn't even wear masks. And we walked in and no one said anything. It was just like very specific places where it was like, you'd walk in, they hand you the mask, But we went to a restaurant, you just walk in without it, and you're like, we're going to sit down in 10 seconds. Are you really going to kick us out? And they didn't, and they wouldn't. So I don't know, man. I don't really care all that much about masks, but I will tell you this. We're at the point where I'm just fed up. I'm so over it. And I think most people are too. But we'll see. We'll see. Plan ahead. I don't think you guys are going to be traveling next year for the holidays, especially with an election coming up. This is going to get worse. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.